Welcome to This is a Spell, a podcast designed to help you uncover and rewrite the stories that have kept you stuck so you can finally create the life that you desire and deserve. If you're ready to release old conditioning and reconnect with your body and intuition, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Veronica, a transformation coach whose work blends subconscious reprogramming, nervous system regulation, energetics, and more. Here, we know that our desired reality isn't created from shaming ourselves or hustling harder, but from aligning with our true self. Let's begin. Manifestation or reality creation is all about identity work. It's about becoming the version of us who has what we desire. The version of us who believes we are capable and worthy of what we desire, who perceives themselves as the type of person who has what we want, and also feels safe receiving it. I'll use the example of desiring a healthy relationship. If the reality you want to live in is the reality where you are in a healthy partnership, you have to believe that you are worthy and capable of being in a healthy relationship. You have to view yourself as the type of person who is in healthy relationships or who has healthy relationships. And you have to feel safe being in a healthy relationship. You have to feel safe, receiving everything you'd receive in a healthy relationship. Love, supports, engaging in healthy conflict, receiving feedback, spending quality time with your significant other. If you don't feel safe receiving love and support from another person, or it doesn't feel safe being vulnerable with someone else, or any other key aspect of being in a healthy relationship, you're going to struggle to find yourself in a healthy relationship because our nervous system and our subconscious are running the show. Our nervous system has to feel safe receiving what we desire, or we are going to subconsciously push it away. Or it's going to feel really overwhelming when we do receive it, and we may not be able to hold on to it and stay in the identity of the version of us who has that healthy relationship or whatever it is that we desire. Our nervous system and our subconscious work together to keep us safe, and being safe is their top priority. Our nervous system cares about survival above all else. And what is safe to our nervous system and our subconscious is what's familiar. Our current identity is safe. The current habits that we engage in, the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we feel, the same ones that we've been engaging in and thinking and feeling for the past few years, probably, or maybe even longer, is what is safe to our nervous system and subconscious. And our subconscious is responsible for about 95% of what we see in our external reality. The other 5% comes from the action that we take, the effort that we put in. So even if you are trying really hard and doing all of the right things, you may still struggle to receive what you desire. Your nervous system may still not feel safe receiving what you desire. So if you don't feel safe receiving what you desire, or you don't believe that you are worthy of it, don't believe you are capable, or you're just not in alignment with the version of you who has what you desire, you're going to have a really hard and challenging time getting to that reality. What prevents us from feeling safe? Our nervous system capacity affects our identity and our sense of self from a very young age. In order to go through the process of individuating and forming our own identity as we mature and grow, we have to have the nervous system capacity to do so. We have to have the capacity to try new things, to experiment, to show up in our relationships, to care for ourselves, and more. Our nervous system capacity is built upon three main things. 1, having secure attachments. 2, being guided through the stages of development so that we can form the neural and somatic pathways that we need. And also, number 3, having our physiological needs met. So, in other words, we need healthy, safe relationships with our caregivers in order to develop secure attachment. We need to be shown and taught how to communicate, how to develop skills, how to be in a relationship. And we also need things like proper sleep, proper nutrition in order to grow, for our bodies to grow and develop. A quick side note here. Identification gives us a sense of security. Going back to feeling safe, our nervous system cares about feeling safe and surviving. It cares about surviving above all else. Next to that, it cares about identifying, being part of a group. So the need to identify with someone or something bigger and larger than ourselves is one of our most basic needs. It provides us with this sense of safety. And it begins with our caregivers from a very young age. We identify with our caregivers from a very young age. So if our caregivers are not securely attached, we are going to pick up on that and start to identify that with that as well. If our caregivers have a low sense of self-worth, if they are shame-based, we internalize this shame because we identify with them. Secure attachment comes down to believing that your self-worth is intrinsic. If we aren't securely attached, we are going to be constantly looking for something or someone outside of ourselves to prove to us that we are worthy. If we are constantly looking outside of ourselves for validation, I'm sure you can imagine the impact that has on your sense of identity. And like I said, if we had shame-based caregivers and we internalize that shame, every need, every feeling, every desire, our drive, they are all going to be bound up in shame. That makes it really hard to step into the identity of the version of us that we want to be, who has what we want. If we feel shame for wanting those things, for feeling a certain type of way, it's going to be really hard to be the person who goes after what we want. It's going to be really hard to be the person who believes we are worthy and capable of getting what we desire. So if you have an insecure attachment style, if you have low self-worth, if you are shame-bound, if you struggle with toxic shame, you most likely already feel unsafe on some level. And anything outside of our comfort zone is going to feel unsafe for our nervous system and our subconscious. And also anything that reminds us of our past can easily trigger us to feel unsafe. If we have a history of trauma, or we just have certain experiences that really programmed our subconscious, these memories that maybe we don't remember consciously, but our subconscious remembers, we can be triggered by, the way someone reacts, the tone of their voice, the look on their face. That can trigger our nervous system into this fight or flight, into this feeling of we are not safe, we have to do something. Our brain is constantly scanning the environment to make sure we are safe. It is constantly picking up on any signals, letting us know that we may be unsafe or that there's a threat. So how can we begin to feel safe so that we can get to the place of shifting our identity, stepping into the identity of the version of us who has what we want? When our nervous system is in a regulated state, in the ventral vagal state, that is when we are able to receive what we desire. That is when we are able to be in creation mode, creating what we want, creating our next identity. It's the nervous system state where we can align our thoughts and our feelings to those of our desired identity. It's really hard to embody your desired identity when you're constantly in sympathetic or dorsal vagal states, because all your body is concerned about is surviving. So you're either in that fight or flight or freeze or fawn response. Your body is not concerned about creating your desired reality, getting to the next level, getting a promotion, being in a healthy relationship. It is just concerned about surviving. So when we are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, we want to honor our body's needs. We don't want to shame ourselves for having this response because the nervous system is doing its job. And shame is correlated with the freeze or shutdown state. So when we shame ourselves, we are actually triggering our nervous system response, our stress response. And that is a whole other topic for a whole other episode. But what we want to do, we want to focus on regulating ourselves so we can more quickly come back into this regulated state, into this ventral vagal state. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is that we want to be doing nervous system work when we already feel safe. We want this to be a part of our daily practice. When we already feel safe and we do this nervous system work, we can expand our window of capacity to receive more, to step into that next identity. So here are 3 simple ways that you can begin to practice this every day. 1 is going to be notice your internal dialogue. As humans, we have the ability to trigger our stress response through thought alone. So, like I said, if you are shaming yourself, you're going to trigger your stress response. If you are constantly beating yourself up, you're activating your stress response. If you're imagining worst case scenarios or you're ruminating over the past, you're going to trigger your stress response. Isn't it so annoying being a human sometimes? So we want to bring more awareness to our thoughts and our feelings throughout the day. We want to notice our internal dialogue. How are we responding to events? How are we talking to ourselves? And we want to catch ourselves. And the more you practice this, the easier it will get. I know the moment for me where I really kind of had this like wake up call of my self-talk is keeping me in this spiral and this is the reason I cannot get out of this reality, was I caught myself beating myself up. And in that moment, I was just like, oh, wow, like I can't believe I'm talking to myself like this. And also like, how long have I been doing this? I've probably been doing this every day and I don't even realize it. So the more you practice this, the easier it will get. But you want to catch yourself when you have that negative self-talk, when you are ruminating. Shift your thoughts from negative to something positive. Or if that feels too challenging to go from beating yourself up to saying something positive about yourself, just try to neutralize it. For example, if you catch yourself saying like, I'm so bad at this, I suck at this, tell yourself, this is really challenging for me, but with time it will get easier. With practice, I'll get better. Or this is really challenging for me, with time, I'll improve. I don't have to be good at it today. This will create more safety in your own inner world, right? The version of you who has what you want feels worthy of receiving what you desire. That version of you is not beating yourself up for having what you want. They're not, I promise. Okay, so number 2, you want to create more safety for your nervous system through resourcing. This to me kind of looks like being present. So noticing your surroundings, noticing what you see, what you feel, and what you hear. Notice that you are safe. I like to do this practice every morning before I meditate or journal or visualize to create safety in my body, to ground myself, and then I begin, my morning rituals. So I'll sit outside usually, look around, from left to right, right to left, notice, what is around me. I will close my eyes and just listen to as many different sounds as I can. And then I'll notice what I feel. Maybe it's the breeze against my skin, maybe it's my clothes against my skin, the chair I'm sitting in. This resourcing practice is going to help your nervous system feel safe. And the third tip here is going to be visualizing your desired reality, or visualizing the desired version of you. Our brain does not know the difference between what is real and what is not, what is happening in our external reality and what is just happening in our mind. So, like I said earlier, sometimes that can work against us because it can trigger our stress response, but it can also work for us. You can train your brain to feel safe, or train your nervous system, train your subconscious to feel safe receiving what you desire by visualizing it. And when you do this, you really want to tap into the feelings. How are you going to feel when you are living in that reality? How are you going to feel when you are that version of you who has what you want? Embody that feeling, right? How we get on the frequency of the version of us who has what we want is through our thoughts and our feelings. We want to visualize and really put a lot of emotion behind it. Get into that feeling. That is going to help our nervous system and our subconscious feel safe. I like to do that, say, at least once a day, but throughout the day, if you can reflect back on that and get back into that feeling, visualize it again as you go about your day, it's going to be really helpful. These are just a few simple daily practices that you can begin to incorporate throughout your day to create more safety for your nervous system and subconscious. These small daily practices are what creates safety over time. We want to go at the speed that feels safe for our nervous system. We don't want to rush this process. If you are trying to, if you want results tomorrow, and right now your nervous system and your subconscious do not feel safe, it's probably unrealistic. Or if you do get what you want, it's probably going to feel overwhelming and too much for your nervous system, and you're not going to be able to keep it in your reality. So, slow and steady. If you want to dive deeper into identity work and learn more about what impacts your identity, you can grab my free guide. I have linked in the description. In the guide, I explain in greater detail how our identity is formed and what negatively impacts our identity. And there's also a self-concept audit, so you can get really clear on where you are now, the version of you now, and this will help you pinpoint the gap between where you are now and where you want to go. So who you are now, your current identity, and your desired identity. So you know exactly what to focus on so you can finally step into a more authentic, aligned version of yourself. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching This Is a Spell. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Until next week, remember, you are enough, you are worthy, and you have all the answers within you that you seek.